We are going to get started here in just a minute. We have some people filing through. And let me open up my questions box so I can see you guys talking to me. So welcome. We'll just say hello to some people that are here. Just a quick list. We have Al, Brian, Courtney. Hello, Courtney. Love the way you spell your name with a combination of caps and lowercase. Is that like a cool thing, Courtney? You let me know. Eric. Hello, Hutch. Hello, Jeanette, Ken, Chris, Liz, Michael, Mitul, Neil, Philip, Richard. What's going on, Richard, my man from Boston? We have two Ricks. We have Ron. We have Steve, Tom, Trent, Willie. Plenty more people filing in. It is great to see you guys. Let me ask, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me okay if you just type into the chat box for me so that I know? Okay, awesome. Awesome, okay, thank you, thank you. And can you guys see the screen okay? It should say R4 Sales System, just making sure. We've started webinar presentations before and then gone 20 minutes in and had the screen not work. So awesome, all right. Well, I want to introduce you to a very, very good friend of mine. And many of you already know him just because he's famous at what he does. And I'm just very, very proud to tell you about the friendship that I have with him. Mike Cooch, I have really, really enjoyed working with and getting to know him because he is one of the most honest, ethical guys you will ever meet in our space, and has such a great way of conveying just knowledge as a teacher. And I've had a really just wonderful time getting to know him as a friend and also working with him as a partner. And I wanted to bring him in front of you today so that he could bring you just a method that he has perfected. Mike is known as, if any of you were at our live event in Vegas last weekend, Mike is known for taking something small and putting systems in place to generating huge, huge business. So Mike has built and sold businesses in the past. So he is all about scale and systematizing. And what he's done is taken a topic that a lot of people struggle with all the time, which is how to be authentic and how to sell when you don't, without having to seem like a salesperson, and doing it in a way that's natural for you. And a lot of you know that that's what I'm very passionate about. And Mike just has an amazing system that he has taken and scaled and implemented in his company to make him hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. So without further ado, Mike, welcome, man. It is wonderful to have you.
Hey, thank you very much, Costas. I appreciate it. Thank you for the nice introduction, and hello to everybody out there. Thanks for having me on board here.
Awesome. So, Mike, please feel free to take it from here, and I'll be here with you for anything that you need.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Costas. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining me here. I appreciate it. And I saw everybody chatting in there to Costas, which I appreciate. I love these webinars that you can actually have some interaction back and forth with people. I don't like to feel like I'm just sitting here at my desk talking into space. So I appreciate as much engagement as you guys can send my way during this. And I think by doing that, we'll all make sure that we learn as much as possible from this and make sure we get everything out of it that we can. And on that note, I'd love it if we could start off, if you wouldn't mind, chatting just two things real quick. Chat in where you're coming from. I heard Costa say that one of the gentlemen there are from Boston, which that's where I started my first business. So I always like to hear some Boston natives on the phone. And then the other thing, if you wouldn't mind, just any questions that you have up front, anything that you'd like to make sure that you learn from this presentation. Go ahead and chat them in. That would be fantastic, and I'll make sure if I don't answer them throughout the presentation, I'll definitely make sure that at the end of the presentation, I stick around and answer any questions that I can for you. And let's see here. So we got some BC, Canada, Las Vegas, San Diego, Salt Lake City, Utah. There's our Boston, Richard. There you go. Ricky in Dallas, Philadelphia, Eddie Smith in Houston. Hey, Eddie. Cool. Thank you very much. So, yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and chat them in. And like I said, we'll make sure and get to them. And Costas, I want to say as well, for you, please feel free to jump in. And, there's somebody from Dubai. Very cool.
Dude, that is awesome, dude.
Yeah, that is awesome. I've never been there. I really want to go. But yeah, Costas, I mean, obviously you have anything that you want to interject, please feel free to do so. Don't hesitate to jump in, okay?
Thanks, man. I will actually I want to give props to Eddie Smith from Houston. Eddie is an awesome man that I will never forget. He actually sent me tickets in the mail to a Get Motivated seminar. Are you familiar with them, Mike?
No, I'm
Get
not.
Motivated. It's like this. It used to be like Peter Lowe, this guy who used to go around the country. They rent out these stadiums and they have like really famous people come in and speak. Like they had so. Eddie got me front row tickets to the stadium in Nashville where they had Bill Cosby. Like I saw Bill Cosby speak and
That's awesome.
Who's that coach? Who's that like famous basketball coach who was like super famous and totally
Woodson?
success oriented? Yes.
Yeah.
Wooden.
Nah, not Woodson. Wooden.
Yeah, it was him. He was like 5 feet away from me. So anyway, I want to say thank you for that, Eddie. I'll never forget you, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Good deal. All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll get cruising here. So it sounds like everybody can hear me, everybody can see the slides, so we're off to a good start. And like I said, please do, as much engagement as possible. I think that makes these things more fun. So speaking of engagement here, we're going to start off with a pop quiz. Okay, we're going to start off with a little pop quiz to test your knowledge a bit here on some particular aspects of sales. So true or false, the sales process is the most important step in establishing a lucrative long-term relationship with the client. Go ahead and chat in your answers there. True or false? Let's see. Eddie Smith says false. Hutch says no. Steve says true. Jeanette says false. True, false, false. All right, very interesting. I think this one is leaning towards the false, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you that in my experience that is definitely true. What I found is that when you sign up clients to long-term relationships, when you sign them up to like the $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month contract, and you intend on keeping those clients for a long time, that actually the sales process is the most important step in establishing that relationship. The reason why is that in that sales process, you have the opportunity to make your first impression, right? And you either establish the kind of credibility that you want to in that sales process, and you set the correct expectations with the client in that sales process, or you don't, right? And lots of times when we're trying to sell, or when stereotypical salesperson is out there trying to get a deal, they tend to actually slip into too aggressive a salesperson mode, and they maybe make some promises that they're kind of stretching a little bit and stuff like that, and it erodes the credibility of the service provider. And that, that prospect or that client no longer has that real warm and fuzzy feeling about the person that they're doing business with. So I actually, in my experience, as I said, I find that is true. Let's go on to the next one. True or false? You must be able to make at least $1,000 a month in recurring revenue per client to build a real business as a local marketing consultant to small businesses. That's what SMB stands for, small and medium businesses. So let's see what you got on that one here. Got all falses coming in. Again, we got one true there from Jeanette. All right, very good. Jeanette, I'm with you on this one. I think that this is absolutely true. And again, in my experience, this is the case. The reasons why, and I use some specific language there in the question. I said as a consultant to SMBs, if you were going to do some sort of consulting service that generally, that involves, meeting with clients, it involves providing some sort of labor-based, service to them, consultative service to them, that the cost of doing that, as well as the cost of selling to small businesses, requires that you are getting $1,000 or more per month to have a profitable real business. And when I say real business, I mean that you've developed something that's actually an asset that is profitable enough that somebody will eventually buy. And I think that should all be an objective of ours here as we're building our business, not to just make an income, but to actually build an asset that people will sell. So again, in my experience, I have found that is absolutely true. So here, another one, true or false? Customers that spend more money with you are tougher customers than those that spend less with you. Let's see here. False, false, false. Yeah, this one was more of my trick question, and that's right. So the answer to this one is definitely false. I have found in my experience in growing multiple businesses that the clients that pay more are actually the more successful clients. They're the ones that are more invested in success with you, and they're not the clients that are just barely making it by and watching every penny. And typically these clients actually tend to be much easier to work with. It's always the cheap clients, the ones that are paying you the least, that seem to be the squeaky wheel, that are always causing you problems. So I imagine a number of you have experienced that in your business already. All right, one more here. True or false? A local marketer with excellent sales skills will make more money than a local marketer that has technical expertise, such as being an SEO or PPC expert. All right, I'm going to go ahead and answer this one for you. This one is true, and I see some trues coming in. Very good. And, I would submit to you that, you can use me as the example of this, right? I really don't have any technical knowledge or background that differentiates me in this industry from anybody else. I'm not a PPC expert. I'm not an SEO expert. I'm not a web designer for sure. But I'm pretty sure that I've sold more local marketing services than just about anybody else that you've met in this marketplace. And there's a reason for that. And that's that I have, the ability to market myself and sell my services. And I often say to people that I talk to in this industry that sales is the number one entrepreneurial skill you can develop. And you should be investing as much of your time and energy into developing yourself as an expert marketer and an expert salesperson. And if you do, you will be more highly rewarded than anybody with any technical skills. And I like this picture. I use this picture of Billy Mays just as an example. And I imagine a lot of you are familiar with him from his infomercials and maybe that Pitchman show that he used to do before he passed away. And I love that show. You can still watch that show on TV, by the way, and it's just like a master course in selling. But, Billy sold all kinds of different products, from cleaning products like you see here to, fix-it, types of gadgets and tools and kitchen products and all that type of stuff that you'd use around your house. And he never created any of those products himself. And yet he made hundreds of millions of dollars personally by just being the person who could effectively pitch those products on the television to an audience, that was receptive and interested in what he had to say. The people who actually made the products got far less from those initial sales, that Billy did than he did. He took the lion's share of the revenue from that and did very, very well for himself. So I just really do stress that sales is the number one entrepreneurial skill you can develop. And that doesn't mean that you have to be, the stereotypical salesperson. You don't have to be, kind of slimy about it or hard charging about it. Costas has been very successful in this business, and I know that he takes, a much more kind of laid back approach and professional consultative approach than what you would think of as a typical salesperson. And that's actually a large part of what has made him successful, and that's actually a big part of the system that I'm going to share with you today.
Can I add something, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Costas.
Yeah, I just want to back up what you said about a lot of us start out from take a technical interest in the subject, especially when it comes to internet marketing, and we feel like, so many of my own members, and I used to be this way, where I felt like I needed to have all my technical ducks in a row. Like I needed to understand SEO and pay-per-click and the way everything works, like bulletproof, and be 100% sure before I can go out and sell it.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in my members now, and I think that's a really bad approach, and that's why I'm so happy to have you right now telling the truth and from your perspective of running a business, because I think it's like it's just one way that I can't help but thinking about it. It's like, first you find the girl that you love and you get married and then you make it work, right? So like first you find a client that you just want to take care of, And you might know high level what you need to do to take care of them, but the solution is always something you can figure out. So get the commitment first from a client, learn how to develop rapport and trust, and how to get them to value you. Because the truth is, and I've just said this before in so many of my other trainings as well, that if a client gives me $5,000, which is relatively low, I still have a ton. I can still take a ton of that and make things happen with it, even if I don't know what to do. If someone gives me $5,000, I can easily take 2,000 of that and just pay somebody else who knows a bunch of stuff to implement for me and still get good results. But I'm the one who needs to get the client.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's such a critical lesson. I love the way you say that. You get married first, and then you figure out how to make it work.
Right.
That's great, and it's totally true. You know, we teach that there are 6 common mindset challenges that people have with being successful at selling, and one of those is perfectionism. And that's what you described there, right? You want to make sure that you know everything. You want to make sure that you have everything completely buttoned down before you go out and get that first client, because if you don't, you know, God forbid, what happens if you sign up that client and then everything doesn't go perfectly? And that is a very, very common mindset challenge in selling in general, but in this industry for sure. I mean, I talked to so many people, unfortunately, that, you know, 6 months ago they were working on getting their service packages right, and, you know, today they're still working on getting their service packages right. And it's the exact opposite. You need to flip-flop that. You need to go out and get a client that is paying you, and then it's amazing how quickly you'll get your service packages right. Right? So, yeah,
Totally, man.
it's a great lesson. All right, in promoting this webinar, you know, Costas, one of his emails, you know, he said, you know, that there are these 9 big promises in what you're going to learn today, and I wanted to just repeat those, and I want to say that, you know, I'm committed to making sure that we get through all 9 of these on this presentation. So I'm going to share with you a sales system that works no matter what services you're selling, works no matter who you are selling to. It actually shows you exactly what you should be selling to each customer. It positions you as an expert and a preferred person to work with. It makes you and your prospects confident in your knowledge and your abilities. It establishes a real relationship with your prospect beyond that of just the typical salesperson and buyer. It's cost and time efficient, which is critical when you're selling to small businesses. You have to be very careful about managing the costs and managing the time that you're putting into selling. It gets you paid premium prices for your services. And critically, number 9 here, it's easy to learn, whether you're new or experienced in this business. And I know those are a lot of promises, but if you stick with me, I promise that I'm going to get through them all. And I know that may sound too good to be true, but I promise it isn't. And again, stick through this with me, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay. Now, but wouldn't you agree that if you did have a sales system that accomplished everything that I just told you it does, that, you know, positions you as an expert, allows you to sell at high prices, and gives your prospects confidence in your ability to help them, that it would be worth following to a T? Can I get some feedback on that? I mean, if you did have that system in place, would it be worth following to a T? And I hope that the answer is coming in here. Yes, thank you very much, Richard. I see him coming in. Thank you. And I think that it's important to stress this because, you know, so many people in this industry have been sold a lot of kind of sales gimmicks, I would call them, that really aren't, you know, they're really not worth a lot. You know, a lot of people out there are just selling, you know, quick little WSOs and stuff like that, and they came up with some new, you know, kind of, like I said, gimmick on a way to get a client, and it worked once, and so they package it up and sell it out there in the marketplace. And so what people are oftentimes learning, I think, is bad habits. They're learning these little gimmicks and tricks instead of learning some foundational sales skills and sales approaches that will allow them to sell effectively no matter what they're selling. So I just stress this because I'm probably going to challenge some of the things, just like in that true or false there. You probably got challenged on a few things. And I want to make sure that you're conscious of, okay, there may be some bad habits that I need to break. And I hope to show you in this presentation the right way to sell. So again, my hope is I'll teach you something that you'll be convinced will work, and you'll follow it to a T, and you'll start making more money in this industry. Now, full disclosure, like Costa said, we like to be straight shooters, and so I just want to say this out front. At the end of this webinar, I am going to give you the opportunity to invest in this sales system and learn it in its entirety for me and my team. And I know you guys aren't new to webinars, so I know you've been sold products on webinars and stuff, but I just want to say this out front so you can, we can get that out of the way. You can relax. You can just focus on the content of the webinar. And if it makes sense for you, you feel like to invest in the system at the end of the webinar, then fantastic. If it doesn't, no hard feelings, okay? All right. So my story, give you a little bit of background here. Costas talked a little bit about it at the beginning, and I did as well, but I just want to give you a little bit more details. I've sold to small businesses my entire career, and I've sold multiple service types. The last company that I had, I actually sold IT services. So, things like, we'd go out and fix our customers' computers. We'd set up printers and networks for them and servers and things like that. Okay, that was my last business. I had that business for about 7.5 years or so. I started my current business, Kutenda, which is my local marketing business, about 5.5 years into that business. So, about a year and a half or 2 years actually before I got out of that last business, I started Kutenda. Combined between those businesses, I've sold over $30 million in services to small businesses. And I've made the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. We made the Flyover 50 fastest growing companies, which is the fastest growing companies in Middle America. So we've had a great time. We've grown very quickly. I've had some really good success, and I've really enjoyed it. Selling to small businesses has been good to me. But I got to tell you, I did not start out as a sales success. Okay, in that first business, I actually we were able to rack up a grand total of $65,000 in sales in my first year. Now, if you were working by yourself out of your house, that wouldn't be so bad. But I actually had 3 employees in an office, and if you do the math does not work out that well. So what were the problems that I was facing? One, prospects were taking way too long to buy. So I think I'd get a deal this month and it would drag on and on and on. The next thing you know, it's several months down the road. They were beating me down on my prices. I was unfocused about who I should sell to and what I should sell to, right? I mean, like every small business I thought was just as good of a prospect as the next. So I would spend just as much time on the tiny little broke business as I would on the 50-person law firm that had a ton of money. I was selling one-off projects, but I wasn't getting recurring revenue, which recurring revenue is just, that's gold in this business. And clients were jumping vendor to vendor for cheaper prices. If I would submit a proposal for $500 and somebody else came up and said, hey, I can do it for $375, there was very little loyalty. And they would just jump around, from vendor to vendor. And I was in total scramble mode because of this. And I was just totally desperate for work. Does any of that sound familiar to anybody out there? Any of that sound familiar to you guys?
Mike, I didn't know that was. I didn't know your first year you made $60,000 with 3 employees. That was good too, man.
Yeah, not fun. So I see some yeses and some yups coming in there. Yeah, the reason it sounds familiar, I mean, you may not be selling IT services, but you're selling to the exact same type of clients, and you're experiencing the exact same type of issues because it's not just a matter of what you're selling; it's actually the market that you're selling to. And I was going about selling all wrong to that marketplace, and I was paying the price. And I was in what I call the Smb Cycle of Doom, and I'm sure some of you will relate to this. Step number 1, kind of there on the upper right, you start selling. Maybe you do a little bit of prospecting. You tell some friends you're in this business now. You go to some networking events. Next thing you know, you find somebody, step number 2, that says, yeah, I think, we might be interested in this type of thing. You get all excited. You start spending all your time doing research for them and proposals for them, maybe even do a little bit of freebie work to kind of get them, a little taste of what you can do. And, everything's kind of going along, looks like it's going to be a deal. And then they come to you and they say, hey, we want something, this custom, this or that. Maybe you show them some packages, but they say, yeah, but, we want this, kind of custom deal. So then you're like, okay, so, you start tweaking it and, figuring out if you can do it. And you decide, okay, yeah, I got to do it because I got to get this deal. And then step number 4, it's taking a long time here. You're starting to get a little desperate. So you offer to do it at too low of a price, which is just way too common in this industry. They say yes because you gave them a nice low price. Step number 5, you scramble trying to figure out how to do it. Step number 6, you stop selling for too long, right? You're no longer prospecting. Now you're just hustling and trying to figure out the work for this one client, but you sold it at too low of a price. So by the time you deliver it, there's nothing left over at the end of the day, but you stopped your prospecting, and now you're up to step 7, and you start the cycle all over again. You're in this cycle of doom, as I call it, and that's what I was in. And as a result, I had no confidence. My credit cards were totally maxed out. I was totally stressed out. And, I got to tell you, I had just graduated from graduate school, spent a lot of money on graduate school. And when I was walking into my last final at graduate school, my wife called me literally as I was walking in to take my last test, and she said, "Hey, I'm pregnant." I was like, "Whoa, okay," So found out that we had our first baby on our way, right? And so here I am with, my wife at home with our new baby, and I've got a business that's doing absolutely nothing, and I've racked up all kinds of bills. And anybody who has, a spouse at home, a significant other, that's stressed out, that can make everything, unhappy. So I was desperate. I was truly desperate and trying to stay afloat. And I was really just 100% reactive, right? I would take on any clients that came my way, whether or not it really made sense or not. I was selling for prices that were unsustainable because I was completely afraid of raising my prices and losing deals. And I was doing work that wasn't creating any long-term value for my company. In short, I was not having any fun. And, to me, a big part of having your own business should be having some fun. So again, does that sound familiar to anybody out there? And I see Randy typed in, yeah, a little too familiar. And I know a lot of people, these are common themes that I hear from people, is that they really are challenged in, getting the right types of clients and getting the right types of deals going. And when you can't do that, you get into desperation mode, which just, creates this cycle that just makes everything kind of compound and make everything worse. So something had to change in my business, and thankfully it did. I went from $65,000 in that first year to $596,414 in the next 12 months. That's a precise number because I asked my accountant to look up these specific numbers. So a massive, massive change, over $530,000 in income difference between year 2 and year 1. And I did this in the most competitive market in America for the services we were selling. We were in Boston, and if you're familiar with Boston, there's like 35 universities there. There's all these kids that know everything about computers, way more than I ever did, and they're graduating, coming out of college, and realizing, geez, people will pay them $75 an hour to do computer work. And if you're a kid coming out of college getting paid $75 an hour and not having anybody, tell you any rules about where you have to be or what you have to do, that's a pretty nice situation. So we were trying to charge like $125 an hour because that was the rates we needed to build a real business. And, that can be a little tricky, right? Selling to people that are undercutting you at those kind of prices. But we were able to grow like this in the next 12 months. And in fact, if you look at the rest of the next handful of years from 2003 to 2006, we grew from 65,000 in that first year to 596,000 in the second year, 1.5 million in the third, and 2.9 million in the fourth. That was a lot of fun, right? We had a great time. In fact, we were growing so fast that it felt like the wheels were falling off the cart every day. And that's a fun place to be. I mean, that's definitely where you would rather be in your startup, right? Growing so fast that you feel like stuff's a little bit out of control than where I was when I first started, which I was growing so slow that I felt like, there was just no hope and just no momentum whatsoever. I will definitely take the second situation over that first one. So the big question is, what changed? What changed from that first year to then going through over the next few years to growing at the pace that we did and making that Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies 3 years in a row? And make sure everybody's awake out there. I've got $100 in cash to the person that can tell me what they think changed. Let's see here. We got Mark says mindset, which is incredibly important.
Now the responses are coming through.
Yeah, here they come. Yeah, also wake people up. Matt says having a sales system raised my prices. Mindset, you changed your, I'm not sure what that's mindset again. Process, stayed focused. You started selling to, what does this say? To the right people. Let's see here. What else? Awareness, sales system, desire, your methodology. Willie says nothing. Focused on the process. Residual building. You believed in yourself. Right niche. Sales process. Okay, I'm gonna give it to. Who's the first person? Costas, maybe you can help pick through there and find it. But the first person that said selling to the right, started selling to the right clients, to the right people. I think it's Mitch Fields. I think
I will look down as well.
Maybe all of the answers that you guys gave are great, and they were all critical. They were all important. But there was one word that I was looking for in particular, and Mitch's is kind of the secondary result of this word, so I'm going to give it to him. But the thing that changed. Let me get back over here to my presentation. The thing that changed. Well, let me start with what didn't change. It isn't that we hired a new salesperson that knew what he was doing. It isn't that we created some incredible service offering that everyone wanted all of a sudden. It isn't that we started delivering dramatically better services and got tons of referrals. And it isn't that we lowered prices to get more business. In fact, we raised our prices 3 times in the next year. So if it wasn't any of those things, what was it? Well, the answer is that we learned to start selling strategically at our business. Okay, we learned to start selling strategically at our business. Now, what do you think that means? I mean, I know, selling strategically can mean a lot of things, and you guys typed in a lot of really good things. You're targeting the right market. You've got a system. All those things are true. But what it really meant for us is that we started using a sales process that positioned us as experts. It created real relationships with our prospects that could value and could pay for our services. And that's critical, right? Your clients need to value the services, but they also need to be able to pay you for that value, right, at the right prices. It allowed us to work with prospects on their business goals and their challenges. And it kept us from selling commoditized technical services. Okay, and this is critical. And I've got to tell you, before I go on any further, this is not the result of some brilliant strategic insight on my part. So when I say we started selling strategically, it's not that, Mike, who got his fancy MBA, started realizing, we have to take this strategic approach. It's not that at all. And I'll explain that to you in a minute, but I can't take credit for having this amazing strategic insight that all of a sudden grew our business. But I can tell you again, in the IT services world, just as an example, the differences in the conversations that we started to have. So before, when we were selling, we were oftentimes talking with our clients about things like what our hourly rates were and why was our rate 125 versus 100, when somebody else told me they can do it for 100. Conversations were oftentimes about things like hardware and software. Which laptop should I get? Which piece of software should I use? Do I need this upgrade? Things like that. And the conversations were almost always about short-term firefighting. Somebody had a virus on their computer or their hard drive failed, and it was, hey, just come in here and fix this, do it as quickly as you can, as cheaply as you can, and then get out, right? after when we implemented this more strategic sales process, we were having conversations about business value created and about business systems design. How do you use technology to design business systems that will help you grow your business most effectively and get the most value from your business long term? So we're talking to them about strategic issues at their business. And if you put this into terms of, this industry, the marketing industry, it would be pretty similar, right? If you're out there selling on any sort of hourly rates, I'm sure, you have people that, the clients that will try and beat you down on your prices, right? And maybe you've had conversations about SEO and link building and stuff like that. I remember some of our first clients in this space asking us, well, like, how many links were we going to build, in the next month? And I was like, man, how many links we're going to build? I mean, does that really matter to you? I mean, what matters is that you get ranked, right? It doesn't matter that, you've got X number of links being built for you. And we're often talking to them about short-term projects like creating a Facebook page or creating a new video for them or things like that, right? So now, afterwards, we're talking to them about things like business value created. How much more is your business worth if your business has grown because of marketing systems that we're putting in place? And that's the type of thing that we talk about, marketing systems design. Not just SEO this or PPC that. We're talking about designing marketing systems that will allow them to grow their business as quickly as possible and get the most value from their business. So again, we're talking to them about long-term strategic issues. So more strategic conversations with our prospects and clients meant that they were now viewing us as a strategic part of their team, okay? They were now viewing us as trusted advisors, as experts. And experts get paid what? Experts get paid what? I have to bribe you with $100 again?
Is the answer mad money?
Mad money, Costas. That's right. Jeanette says big money. Karen says more money. Right, exactly. Top dollar, says Gino. That's exactly right. Experts get paid more money. So how much of a difference did that make in the relationships that we created and on the rates that we were able to charge? The answer is that over $500,000, as I showed you in the first year alone, and we continued to grow so fast because of this, right? So it made just an astronomical difference at our business. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, well, great, so how did this change happen? And I told you before, it wasn't because I had some, brilliant strategic insight. I mean, honestly, everyone has their snapping point, and in that business, I was at mine. I was very close to giving up on my entrepreneurial dream and getting, and I hate to even say it, and any entrepreneur knows what I'm talking about here, a job, right? I was very close to quitting that business and getting a job. And, I know some of you on this call may have a job and you may be doing your business part-time, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to demean anybody by saying if you have a job, that you're some lower form of life or anything. It's just, for me mentally, I had made this decision that I was going to pursue this entrepreneurial dream. And, I had like attached my personality to being an entrepreneur. And so this idea of going and getting a job and not living that dream and not, being able to be the entrepreneur I wanted to be really just freaked me out. I mean, it rattled me to the core. And so I was really desperate to do anything that I could to change my situation. And if you're fans of somebody like Tony Robbins or, some of the other teachers out there about psychology, they'll teach you that, desperation is oftentimes, the first step to making real change in your life, because you're experiencing enough pain that, you'll try just about anything. And that's where I was at. And I kind of went a bit crazy. I can remember clear as day talking to my business partner, Josh, where, we were like, okay, we've been doing this for a year. We know what all of our crummy customers look like, and we've had a few good customers, so we know, kind of what they look like. And look, we can't do this anymore. We've, at some point or another, we got to draw the line here and just stop taking on those clients that aren't doing us any good. And so what we realized that the clients that were good for us were talking to us in a different way. They were talking to us about how could they use technology to grow their business. They were telling us about the business challenges that they were having and asking us if there were technology solutions that could help them solve those challenges. They weren't talking to us about, hey, my hard drive broke and I need it replaced, and somebody says that they can do it for $75. How much can you do it for? Right? It was totally different conversations. So we said, well, if those are the conversations that our best prospects or our best clients have with us, then let's just not have any of the other conversations with anybody else, right? I mean, so we refused to go out and have conversations with clients who were talking to us about those tactical, putting out the fire kind of issues. If they weren't being strategic about their business and their use of technology, then we would walk out, right? We would excuse ourselves from the conversation. So, we changed our entire approach to having conversations with them. Instead of going in there and talking about rates and talking about, hardware and software, we would go and talk to them about strategy issues. And our mindset changed. Our mindset became that of they had to qualify themselves for us. They had to show us that they were thinking about their business strategically and that they were willing to invest in their business at a strategic level when it came to technology. If they didn't, then like I said, we would walk out, because the last thing that we wanted was more crummy clients that were costing us money. So we just kind of got to this snapping point. Like I said, we'd start talking with prospects about business growth strategies and challenges. And if they wouldn't engage with us on that level, if they would just continue going back to, yeah, but what are your hourly rates and how much will it cost me to fix this thing? Then we would just excuse ourselves from the conversation. Now, that takes a lot of guts when you're broke, right? It takes a lot of guts when you're broke to walk away from somebody that you think could pay you money. But the problem is, if you take the clients that are beating you down on prices, that are looking at you as tactical and not strategic, you waste all of your time and you're no longer out there getting the better clients that you need that can pay you the money you deserve. Okay? So it's very difficult to do, but when you pull it off, it can make all the difference. So what were the results? Well, we started getting clients that appreciated our approach. Okay? And let me explain this to you. In the broad category of small businesses, you have everything from the one person, working at home that's making no money yet, all the way up to the 50-person and beyond. But let's say the 50-person law firm or consulting firm who bills themselves out at $350 an hour, that's been in business for 25 years and is making huge money. Okay? Well, that business has a totally different set of problems than the one guy who's sitting at home trying to get his business started. That business has run into some growth challenges that they need help solving to get to the next level. They are strategic issues that need to be addressed. So when we started going out there and talking to clients at a strategic level, instead of about putting fires out, they actually appreciated that. Because most of our competitors were just going out there and saying, hey, I can fix that computer for $250. They weren't talking to them about how they could use technology to get past some of their business hurdles. So we were really finding new types of clients that really appreciated what we were doing. They would gladly pay us to work with them. Our average client shot up to a $2,500 a month retainer and stayed with us for over 3 years. It's over $90,000 per client, and that's not including project work that we did with them as well. We did a whole bunch of project work as well. Plus, these clients, as I said before in our pop quiz, were actually easier to work with because they appreciated the challenge of what we were trying to do and that we were putting in good effort to help them. So it was a totally different situation. And there's a big aha lesson here that I just want to really, really make sure that you understand. So I'm gonna kind of repeat this here a couple times to just make sure you really get it. And I see some people here are saying that they have some challenges hearing the sound, that some of the sound's cutting out. So I apologize for that. I don't know that everybody's having that problem. It might be kind of an isolated thing. But I'll keep rolling here. I want to make sure that you really get this aha lesson, okay? So let's look at an analogy here, a little fishing analogy, okay? When you're fishing, you use certain bait to attract certain types of fish, right? A shark is going to be attracted to a different type of bait than a little bluegill, right? So you've got to have the right bait for the right fish. Well, in sales, it's the same thing. The kind of bait that you put out there into the marketplace attracts certain types of clients. Certain customers or clients are looking for and attracted to certain types of messages and offers. I first learned this in this fantastic book. It's a marketing classic, as it says right there on the cover of the book. If you haven't read it, it's called Positioning from Al Ries and Jack Trout. And this was just a really, groundbreaking book when it first came out. And it talks about this idea that, hey, you have to strategically position your brand in the mind of your clients. And it also talks about that you can't have multiple positions without really confusing the marketplace, right? You really need to pick your position and do your best to stay there and own that position in the marketplace. So, just as an example, I think this graph kind of illustrates this, right? If you've seen this, there's kind of the spectrum of products, right, and price points, right? There's high quality products and low quality products. There's high price products and low price products, right? So, on the high quality, high price side, somewhere over there in that upper right quadrant would be like Mercedes-Benz, right? We all recognize it as this high quality brand. It's going to cost more money, but it's all about the craftsmanship and performance of the car and the luxury and all that stuff. Okay, so that's what would fit up in that upper right quadrant. On the lower left quadrant, in that low price and low quality, maybe that's more like McDonald's. Okay, McDonald's has said, hey, we're going to be cheap, but we're going to be consistent, we're going to be clean, we're going to be fast. Okay, it's not the best food in the world, it's not the healthiest food in the world. So those are two brands that I think you can clearly see, they've really identified their quadrant, they own it, they stick to it, they don't deviate from it, right? Mercedes doesn't come out with real cheap cars, and McDonald's hasn't come out with a $55 steak dinner. Okay, those would be confusing to their customers and not consistent with their brands. Well, the big problem in this industry is that too many of you are positioning your business, whether you realize it or not, and I think that that's a big challenge, is that many of you just don't realize you're doing it, as low price, low quality, when you really need to be more in that higher price, higher quality spectrum. For the simple reason that, as I said before in the true false, you really need to get $1,000 a month per client or more to have a real business in this industry. Okay, but most people are out there, you're selling a specific solution, SMS or mobile or whatever it is, and you're going out there and you're selling like that. You're selling like a salesperson. Okay, you're selling like a vendor who's got stuff, and you're trying to find a client who wants that stuff. Okay, the problem is that is a commodity sales approach. You are not a trusted advisor. You are a salesperson. Okay. So if you are running around having commodity conversations about commodity services, you will get clients that view you as a commodity and pay you commodity prices. If you have strategic conversations with strategically minded businesses, you will get clients that view you as strategic and will pay you higher prices. And the way I like to summarize this in a way that's really easy for people to remember, broke companies are looking for cheap. Successful companies are looking for strategy. Okay? Broke companies are looking for cheap. Successful companies are looking for strategy. Why is that? Because a successful company is beyond the point where they have to count every penny. Okay, now it's about how do I invest in the right things in my business strategically to take me to the next level. I have the money to do it. As long as there is a strategy I can invest in that will work, I have the money to do it. Okay? So you must sell to clients that value and can pay for what you have to offer. You must have strategic conversations that demonstrate your worth in order to do so. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to see a heck yes. Because it doesn't make sense for me to go too much further here in the presentation if this doesn't make sense to you. Yes, yes, there's a heck yes. Thank you, Richard. All right, I appreciate it. So, because if this doesn't make sense to you, then the rest of it certainly will be lost on you. I mean, if that concept is so important, and it's all the difference in having a business that makes you a lot of money and a business where you're struggling to get by. And I hear you say, okay, well, that's great, Mike, but how do I do that? How do I have those types of conversations, right? So let me take you through that. That was my challenge, was to create a system that allows you to talk strategically to any type of business. It positions you as a marketing expert. It gives you and your prospect confidence, and it can be quickly and easily learned by anybody. And that, the result of that is the R4 sales system. Now, the entire system contains marketing pieces, phone scripts, email campaigns, all that stuff. But at the heart of the system is a simple conversation piece called the R4 framework. And it's simple, but it's powerful. So, I'm just showing you a simple little triangle here, a little pyramid. Don't dismiss it because of its simplicity, because it is really what makes it powerful. It makes it easy for you to learn, easy for you to communicate, and easy for your client to understand and appreciate the value of it, okay? And I think the best way for me to explain this is to walk through it in a conversation, okay? So let's pretend I'm talking with a prospect and they ask, hey, Mike, what do you do? My answer would go something like, I help businesses like yours leverage proven marketing systems to get dramatic growth in their business. Prospect, if there was any interest at all, would say, something like, how exactly do you do that, Mike? And I'd say, well, I'd be happy to show you. If you don't mind, let me first ask a quick question or two. And I'd ask these questions. How are you currently marketing your business? What's working for you? What are your biggest challenges? And do you feel like you have a predictable system for growth? Now, ultimately, these questions are designed to get them to open up and admit they aren't happy with their current results, right? Because selling is all about finding somebody with a pain and delivering a solution to overcome that pain. I mean, Costas teaches this really, really well in reputation management. If you can find somebody that, is bleeding on the side of the road, right, and you have the phone and can call the ambulance, they're your best friend. They're going to pay you whatever they can, right, to solve their problem for them. So you got to look for clients with pain. So if I ask these questions and somebody acknowledges, yeah, we're struggling, then I know that I'm talking to a good prospect, and I would continue on with this framework. I'd bring out the R4 framework. And when I say bring it out, I'd just talk to it. Maybe I'd even doodle it on a little napkin or on a whiteboard, depending on where we're at. And my conversation would go something like this. It's our experience, Mr. Prospect, that there are 4 R's every business needs to plan for and optimize to maximize growth potential. The first R is reputation. The second is reach. The third, resell. And the fourth is referral. Let me just go through and explain each of those to you. So in terms of reputation, Mr. Prospect, it's never been easier for a prospect to find out what others think about your business online. I mean, all they have to do is whip out their cell phone now, and they can search and know more about your business than probably you do in the next 10 minutes. In fact, over 50% of local consumers say that before they go to a new business for the first time, the first thing that they do is they search online to see what other people are saying about it. And over 90% of those people say that the feedback they found online makes just as big of an impact on them as a recommendation from friends or family. So they really take this information seriously. And if you're not out there proactively managing your reputation to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with all of those customers that are searching for a business to go to, then obviously you're missing out on a lot of business. Does that make sense to you, Mr. Prospect? We get a yes out of them, right? The second, Mr. Prospect, is you need to make sure, the second is reach. The second R is reach. And you need to make sure that more people know about you today than did yesterday, right? If you're hoping to grow your business consistently, then you have to have a bigger audience over time. You have to have more people that are aware of your business and what you have to offer, what your value proposition is. So there's a lot of ways that you can reach a customer, a potential customer, right? You can advertise online. You can advertise in the yellow pages. You can put signs up around town. You can, make phone calls out to people. There's all kinds of ways of doing this. But unless you have your reputation in place first, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go and spend a ton of money to try and reach new people, right? Because the last thing you want to do is pay all this money to reach new people and drive them to sites that are saying bad things about your business, which is why we have reputation first, because we believe that's the foundation of being successful in growing your business. The third R is resell. So once you've done all the hard work of getting more customers, you need to make sure that you maximize the lifetime value of that customer, which is just a fancy word for saying that you need to make sure that you're selling as much as you possibly can to them to recoup all of your marketing dollars that went into getting that customer. So, if you've ever been to McDonald's, Mr. Prospect, and you go in, you order something, and they ask you if you want to supersize it or if you'd like a shake or dessert with that, those are examples of upselling and cross-selling. And every business has the opportunity to resell to existing clients, to upsell clients when they're making a transaction, and to cross-sell new products and services to them over time. So a key to growth is looking for those opportunities and systematically designing marketing systems to make sure that you are doing those upsells, cross-sells, resells to all of your existing customers. And then the final R, Mr. Prospect, is referral. Since I know you'll be doing such a great job of taking care of your customers, we need to set up systems to maximize the benefit you get from them. When you have a happy customer, you want to have them go out and tell the world how happy they are with your products and services. But unfortunately, the reality shows that if you make that too hard for people, if you expect them to go out of their way, they just won't do it. But if you make it very easy for them, if you have referral systems in place, then they will take that extra step, in many cases, to tell the world all the positive things about your business. Now, as we all know, somebody who's very unhappy with your business will go out of their way to tell everybody. So we've got to make sure we put a system in place that captures all the positive things to counteract any of the inevitable, negative things that an unhappy customer or client may be saying about you. Now, it's our experience that maximizing any of these R's can lead to 25% growth at your business. And maximizing all four gets a compounding effect that can grow your business at 100% more per year. And that's why you see certain businesses in any industry that are just on fire and growing like crazy, is they've maximized these 4 R's at their business. Okay? So now, I would have that conversation with this prospect, and they'd either be understanding what I would say, what I'm saying to them, right? I would end this with a question like, do you see how maximizing these 4 R's could significantly impact growth at your business? And they would say either yes or no. And if it's no, I know that I've got one of these tactically minded small businesses that's not thinking strategically, and it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to not waste any more time with that prospect. On the other hand, if their eyes are kind of lighting up and they say yes, then I know that I've got somebody who's thinking strategically and is seeing the value of having these marketing systems in place. So if that's the case, I then arrange a time with them to have a second conversation and try and move the deal forward. And that's when I would bring out the R4 marketing audit. Now, R4 marketing audit is essentially just a simple questionnaire or survey that I would take people through to determine which of the 4 R's are they strongest in and weakest in at their business. And this does 2 great things. One, it clearly shows your clients how much better they could be doing with their business. And 2, it clearly shows you where you need to focus to get your clients the most impact with your services. Okay? So it's a nice survey that makes those things very clear. Next, based on the results of that survey, I would bring out the R4 Service Alignment Guide. And I hear from a lot of people in our industry where they say, hey, I just sold to a restaurant, but I don't know, they're interested in working with me, but I don't know exactly what package to put together. What services should I deliver to them? And that's what this R4 Service Alignment tool is. It actually takes by vertical market. You can see on the left-hand side there's restaurants and nightlife, and there's professional services, as an example. And then to the right, it's got the 4 R's: reputation, reach, resell, and referral. And it tells you which services are actually best for that particular vertical in each of those R's, so you can match them up with the survey that you just did with them. So let's say a restaurant needs work on the 3rd R, resell. I would look at the guide, and it shows that SMS is a perfect solution to put in place to improve resell, right? Which is true, right? With restaurants, you can get people to join, your coupon club or whatever, or join your happy hour club by, joining their SMS list. And by doing that, you can drive great repeat revenue and great foot traffic to a restaurant during slow times by offering particular coupons and specials and things like that. Versus if you were selling to a professional services firm and you look just below that, SMS, if you're an accounting firm, SMS isn't exactly going to do you any good, right? You're not going to be texting your accounting clients. However, if you have a good email marketing campaign, good email newsletters, direct mail, things like that would work really well in that market. So it tells you, hey, is this particular service ideal for this particular market or not? So you no longer have to wonder what you should be selling to your clients. The R4 Audit and Alignment Guide will tell you. And by having a more strategic conversation, you've given yourself the flexibility to not pitch a specific product or service. Okay, if you're a video marketing guy and every client, every prospect that you talk to, you just immediately jump into video marketing without even knowing if video marketing is really what they need at their business, then you're selling tactically, you're not selling strategically. By having a more strategic conversation, you're determining the right product or service based on what the client actually needs. Imagine that, right? Imagine that you're actually going through a sales process to determine what the client actually needs before you're just pitching them on a very specific service. This is how you put yourself in the position of a trusted advisor instead of just a stereotypical salesperson, okay? Because if you're coming across as a stereotypical salesperson, people are putting up their guard because nobody wants to be sold to, right? But if you're coming across as a trusted advisor that somebody can rely on for advice that will help them take their business to a new level, then you have absolutely changed the position. Again, going back to that Al Reese and Jack Trout book, you've completely changed the position that you have in your prospect's mind. Okay, do you see how having that more strategic conversation can then differentiate you from your competition and position you in a totally different way than just selling SMS, SEO, PPC, or any other tactical solution? Okay. Most importantly, do you see how selling like this can help you command the higher prices that you deserve? Does that make sense to everybody? Can I get some feedback from you guys? Do you see how selling strategically? There's a wow from Mark and a yes from Charles. Thank you guys. I want to make sure that this is sinking in for you. Yeah, having a different level of conversation can totally change the type of relationship that you have with your prospects and clients and how you get paid from them, okay? This is how you get out of that cycle of doom, by putting out the best bait for the fish that you actually want to catch, okay? Because now you're doing business with people that actually value and can pay for your services. And when you do that, you get into what I call the Smb Virtuous sales cycle, where in this case, you start selling, you find an opportunity, they actually value your expertise, they're willing to pay you what you're worth and stick with you long term. That gives you confidence, you're doing a great job for your client, you get referrals, you get momentum, right? This is the R4 pyramid applied to your own business, right? What's good for your clients is good for you. I mean, you need the exact same thing to be happening at your business. You need to be establishing a good reputation, delivering great services, getting referrals from people, and giving you that momentum and that confidence that you need to be successful. So this is the secret that has allowed me to be successful as an entrepreneur selling to SMBs for the last 10 years. The real secret here is that not every small business deserves to be your client. You need to learn to find the good ones, and you need to quickly learn to move away from the ones that are costing you money and costing you time because they can't pay you what you're worth and they don't value what you have to offer. Okay, that's the real secret to being successful in this business. The reality is wasting time with the wrong prospects is the number one killer when it comes to SMBs. Okay, the number one killer when it comes to selling to small businesses is if you're wasting time and doing business with the wrong prospects and clients. Okay, so that's what this R4 framework is all about. That's what these conversations are designed to do, is to put you into a different strategic position with your clients. Now, we also have, though, a specific sales process that we follow. Because as I said, it's important that your sales process is cost and time efficient. If I just give you the conversation framework, but you still aren't following you're still not going to make the kind of money that you deserve. So we have this specific process that we follow that each step is designed to accomplish something very specific, right? We start typically with a marketing event, a webinar like this one, or an in-person event, or we send them a sales letter. From those events, we get people to raise their hand and say that I'm interested. Those people, then we get on a phone call. That first phone call is really just to get our foot in the door and find out, hey, is this really somebody that is actually interested? So I'm doing my initial qualification. And then I go to a phone meeting. Okay, this is something pre-scheduled in advance for 30 to 45 minutes where I'm taking them through more of that R4 formula and I'm engaging with them in a more strategic conversation, okay? And I'm continuing to qualify them. Because what a lot of people do in this industry, they make the mistake of skipping this phone meeting and going straight to an in-person meeting. Well, in-person meetings are expensive, okay? And if you go to a bunch of in-person meetings with unqualified opportunities, you are literally just bleeding money. So I do a phone meeting first, and then if people are real opportunities, that's when we go to an in-person meeting with them and close the client, okay? So this sales process is designed, again, to take it step by step, efficiently, cost efficiently, and time efficiently to make sure that the R4 system is being most effective and that you're getting only qualified opportunities that you're going and spending time with in person. Once the system is in place, you don't need or want to deal with broke businesses, right? Once you start getting good clients, you no longer want or need to deal with clients that don't value what you have to offer or can pay what you have to offer, okay? And that feels to me, and I imagine that feels to you, if you can get to that point, it feels like you got out of jail free, right? You got your get out of jail free card where you realize, hey, I no longer have to spend time with those crummy, cheap clients. I no longer have to chase my tail trying to service people that can't actually pay for what I'm doing for them and don't value it in the first place. And that's a very, very liberating feeling that allows you to take your business to a whole new level. All right, so based on what I've showed you here today, will you leave this webinar and go set the world on fire with your new sales skills, right, and your new sales system? The answer, I think, is doubtful. And why do I say that? I just say that because I've worked with a lot of people in this industry. I probably know you better than you know yourself, and you're pretty stubborn. And if I let you, you'll fall, right back into your old habits, okay? And the biggest risk you face in your business in the next year is not being able to bring in the revenue you need because you continue to use your outdated or insufficient sales skills or sales systems, whatever it is that you're using. It's not that you don't know the latest PPC thing or the latest SEO thing. It's that you're just not going to be successful at getting as much revenue in the door because of whatever, lack of sales skills or just lack of system and process that you're following. And those things are not making you the money that you deserve. Okay, so if you realize that you're in the position, if you're experiencing some of the symptoms that I described earlier in that Smb Cycle of Doom, if you feel like you're selling to the wrong people or you don't know what to sell or you're selling at too lower prices or deals are taking too long or you're dealing with pain in the neck, cheap prospects, then the R4 sales system may be right for you. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce the R4 sales system here finally. And I stress the word, system. That's an important word because this is not just training. This is actually step-by-step tools, processes and scripts and techniques and marketing pieces to take you from the beginning of the sales cycle to the end versus just teaching you sales technique, okay? Now, we start the sales system with foundational training, which is, an overview of the system, but also just a lot of my hard-earned experience in selling to SMBs in terms of, what it takes to sell successfully into the SMB marketplace, because it's a unique marketplace. Selling to small businesses is different from selling to consumers, which is different from selling to the Fortune 500. There are certain things that you need to know about selling to this marketplace to be successful. The top sales mistakes that I see people make and how to avoid them. Again, just what it takes to be successful in terms of the overall sales process and your mindset of selling. And that's the final point, the mindset of a sales champion. And I mentioned earlier when Costas talked about perfectionism that there are 6 mindset challenges that are very well documented in sales that cost people money. So we do this foundational stuff. We go over these things to make sure that you've got your mind right, and you make sure that you've got an overall appreciation of what it's going to take to be successful in selling to small businesses so that you can, have the foundation, the proper foundation to grow with. Because if I just give you the system and you haven't tackled some of these issues, then the system is not going to do you much good, okay? So then we'll move on to the actual systems tools. And this is where we get into the proprietary pieces of the actual R4 system. The R4 framework, R4 sales process, the marketing audit tool that I showed you, the conversation guide that will script you through the exact conversations that you have with prospects, a service alignment tool to help you determine which services you should be delivering to the vertical that you're talking to, and the R4 proposal template, which is just a nice, simple, clear template that you can use to propose services to your clients without having to reinvent the wheel each time. I talk to people all the time that sit down and spend hours and hours crafting these proposals in a unique way for each client. And that kind of paperwork, that kind of administrative overhead just absolutely robs your profitability when you're selling to small businesses. You need to be able to get proposals out fast and efficiently. So we give you all of these R4 systems tools. We also give you turnkey templates for direct mail campaigns, email prospecting scripts, presentations and webinars to run to your prospects, phone scripts, meeting scripts, everything that you need scripted out so you can go through the sales process step by step. And then finally, you get group coaching and Q&A calls with me. We do live calls to review all of the course content and material. We do live role playing of those conversations and how to handle the conversations and objections and all that type of stuff, just to make sure that you're comfortable with it. And then open Q&A to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so big question. I'm sure everybody says, all right, how much, Mike? You've gotten to the pitch here. All right, how much is it? $9,997. How's that sit with you? All right, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. It's not $9,970. I don't want to see people leaping off the webinar here. But to be honest with you, I think that it's easily worth that much. I mean, one client is worth, probably tens of thousands of dollars. If you sell to the clients, as I've told you, getting $1,000 or more per month per client, then just one client, will make back your investment in this. And I have certainly spent way more than that in trying to understand how to actually execute this system and in my own sales training. So I know that it's worth that much for sure, but clearly I'm not going to charge that much. I can tell you though that, you will never see a better price than you're going to see right now. Costas is a good friend of mine, and we always make sure that we, put the best prices out there for each other's communities, and that is no different here. So this is going to be the lowest price that you will see. You can get the complete R4 sales system for just 2 payments of only $197. Or you can save 25% and make 1 payment of $297. Either one, okay? So for that, you're getting the R4, you're getting the foundational sales training, you're getting the sales systems tools, the turnkey templates, all the marketing materials, everything scripted out, and you're getting the group coaching calls with me as well. All right? So that's 2 payments of $197 or 1 payment of $297 to save 25%. And you can get started with that right at .co/4Costas, and I think somebody is going to put that URL into the chat there for you so you can get it easily. But it's kbit.co/4Costas. Now, I always wanted to say this because I love the infomercials, but wait, there's more, and there is more. We've got a bunch of great bonuses lined up for you as well. This is R Costas? R4 Costas. Oh, geez. Somebody came in here and told me that it made a mistake in the URL. Thank you for coming in here and telling me, Geneva. So they will chat in the right URL. That's wrong. It should be R4 Costas, which makes a whole lot of sense. I thought 4 Costas made a lot of sense too, but it should be R4 Costas. So again, somebody will chat that in for you. But we do have a bunch of bonuses. Bonus number 1, you've got 4 additional training calls with me. I'm going to take you through phone sales secrets and strategies. I've built 2 businesses now primarily on selling on the phone, and there's art and science to it. And I'm going to take you through everything that I've learned about selling over the phone successfully. The phone is probably the most important tool for you to leverage in selling at your business, because you can very quickly reach out to 100 people on the phone. If you try and go and reach out to 100 people in person, it's going to cost you a lot of time and a lot of money. Right? So the phone is a super high leverage tool. The power of question-based selling, how to use questions to drive your sales process successfully. Objection handling, right? How to brush off their brush-offs, right? Because you are going to get objections. It's the one thing you can count on in sales, is that you are going to get lots of objections. And then how to close the sale. How to close the sale without it feeling like, you're doing some high-pressure, sleazy, pitch, versus just having good conversations with people and moving the deal forward, okay? So that's bonus number 1. Bonus number 2, you're going to get some of my most powerful sales tools that I've accumulated over the years. 1, you're going to get my sales goal and activity tracker. This is just a spreadsheet that helps you see the exact activities that you're getting in every day in terms of prospecting and moving deals forward, and it really helps you evaluate, kind of where you're strong and where you're weak in your sales process to show you where you need to develop. I'm also going to give you my killer goal setting process. Way too many people I meet in this industry don't have any written goals. You don't have clear goals for what you're trying to accomplish personally and professionally. And I think without that, you're just robbing yourself of a lot of success. So I'm going to give you my personal goal setting process. You're also going to get the triangle feedback system. This is a role-playing system that you can do with other people to help you really improve your scripts and how you're handling objections. And then our trusted vendor Rolodex. We're going to share with you, the sales tools and vendors and stuff that we use, as well as, other service providers and stuff that you can use at your business. Bonus number 3, local sales bootcamp event recordings. So I actually just spoke at Costas' event in Las Vegas, as he mentioned earlier. We also have events of our own. We have a great local sales bootcamp that we just had a few months ago that a lot of people said was the best event they've ever been to. You'll get complete recordings of all that, all the educational sessions. It's a $697 value to attend that event. Bonus number 4, some additional training courses that I think will really help you get the most out of the R4 system. There's the vertical domination training, which is our training on how you go into one particular vertical, one particular niche, and really dominate it. That's what we've done. We sell only to one particular niche, and we've grown our business very quickly that way. And then webinar mastery training. Webinars, we think, are one of the most powerful ways, to get in front of prospects and demonstrate your expertise. So how to do those effectively, what tools to use, how to script your presentations, things like that. Bonus number 5, we're going to give you, as I said, we do our own events, a ticket to any of our events in 2013. We'll be having more of those local sales boot camps in the next year. So if you want to attend one of those to get some more advanced education and training and networking with your peers and just get direct access to me and my team to, ask questions and things like that, then we'll be available for you at those events. Like I said, we're going to have several of them in the next year. So that's bonus number 5 there. And then we've got one fast action bonus here that will be pulled offline by Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. This is what we call our foot in the door training. It's a great guide on prospecting strategies that work. We talk about strategies, we talk about mindset, but we also provide you with very specific scripts to get prospects on the phone and start conversations and to handle those initial objections. And I'll also give you a recording of a 2-hour live training session that I did, taking people through how to use some of these techniques and strategies and scripts most effectively. And I really like that. I think it's a great way for you to get started with some of the principles of the R4 system very quickly, just right out of the gate. So everything here comes with our 1-year satisfaction guarantee. Like Costas, we just really believe we want to make sure that we're delivering good stuff to good people. We want you to be happy with it. If you're not, you've got a year to get your money back, no questions asked. Okay. As you check out, there are some upsells. I just want to let you know, and again, just want to let you know to be straight so you know exactly what those are. The first one that you'll see is me providing email coaching, one-on-one email coaching to you. A lot of people ask just for more direct interaction with me, and so this is an affordable way of getting that. And it's not something I wanted to bundle into the main offer because then I have to raise the price of the system quite a bit. So if you're looking for direct access, direct coaching, that's email coaching through the life of the system. The second one that you'll see is to our membership program. It's called the Summit Club, and that's where we continue to interact and provide updates on the system and strategies that are working for us to our Summit Club members over time, and continue to do live training calls with them and stuff like that. So again, those things are totally optional. You do not need them to be successful with the R4 system, but I know that some people will be interested in that sort of thing, so we do have that available. Okay? So to get started again with the R4 sales system right now, you can go to kbit.co, and I'm going to change this real quick because my team was kind enough to tell me that I got it wrong, and that should be R for Costas. There we go. So that is the end of my presentation, and I am happy to now answer any questions that you have. Neil says, "Hey, Billy Mays." Let's see here. I think that somebody has chatted in the link to you, and you now have the correct link right there. But happy to answer any questions that you have, and if you have not chatted them in, please do so that I can make sure and address them. Costas, are you still there?
Hey man, yeah, I just wanted to add, it's so cool listening to you tell your story as you teach what's working, and if you guys paid attention, there's a structure to how Mike brought us through his system for selling, and just if you guys were able to tune into that the way that I was, and you could feel just that Mike just has a confidence, a presence, a great way of taking us through his system and really helping us while we're listening to him to feel like him. And just what I couldn't help thinking is how invaluable it is to align with somebody who is successfully doing what you want to do. And Mike is just I'm very, very proud to have his friendship, because I could invite him to do this training for you today, and just how important it is, man, just having the clarity. Like, Mike, this is a compliment to you as well, man. Just the step-by-step nature of what to do when you're talking to somebody. Most people, especially in our industry, like, marketing is something that might be mapped out, like how to get somebody to call you, but then what do you do once they're on the phone? And then what do you do once you get in front of them in person? And this is something that largely gets ignored, except for by very, very few people. And it's just so comforting to have a step-by-step approach that you can have 100% confidence in, that you can adapt to your own personality so that you feel comfortable with, and really that you can, in the end, be able to qualify through your system, work with whoever you want and whoever deserves to work with you. That's like total gold, man. You can just totally write your own ticket with this. I mean, people are going to succeed at this just by listening to this presentation. Never mind, I mean, there is no excuse for anybody who invests why they won't see success with this, as long as they just take action. Because really, this is like a 10-year case study on what's worked for you, condensed into into a couple training sessions, right?
Yeah, it really is, and I appreciate all the kind words. Thank you, Costas. And yeah, it is. I mean, that's the point. Is when I was building my first business, I realized very early on, fortunately, that I was just winging it. Like I would go out and, I'd get a prospect on the phone, or I'd have a meeting with them, and I was totally just winging it. I mean, maybe I had some general idea of how I wanted to sell to them, but my conversation was not scripted at all. I didn't have a plan for how I was going to take them from A to Z. And fortunately, I ran across a sales trainer pretty early on, and he beat me over the head on this point. He said, hey, look, the best salespeople are absolutely scripted. They may not sound scripted because they've practiced it so much, and they know that they don't want to come across as scripted. They want to come across as natural, but they are scripted. They know exactly what they're going to say and when, and they know exactly how they're going to respond to whatever objection you put in front of them. And it makes total sense, right? I mean, if you were going into any situation and trying to get the best results, you're going to go in there with a specific plan on how you're going to get through it. And so many salespeople, including me, when I was just getting started, were just winging it, right? I mean, we're just going in there and hoping that this deal closes. That's no way to build a business. And you can get by doing that. If you're a charismatic guy and you've got kind of, guy or gal, of course, but you got kind of the, some natural charisma, natural sales abilities, then you can get by like that. But man, if you're hoping to really make a real living and make a real business for yourself, then I think it's got to be a more professional approach. And I see a number of people. BJ says he got it. Let's see here. I think it was Charles says he got it. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it, and I certainly look forward to working with you. If there's any feedback that you have as to why you bought it, I always love to see that. You can chat it in, and I'd love to share that. But as here, Charles says, spent many years in front of the mirror. Yeah, absolutely, right. Spend a lot of time practicing your pitch and honing, how you do things. That's just part of the deal. I mean, you practice things. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing with some practice and doing it really well, right? Let's see. There's a couple of questions. So, E-Rock.
Hey, Mike,
Chris,
can I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Costas.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
There's the capital R in the link. Can you change that to a lowercase r just because it doesn't work for capital?
Man, look at that. Am I getting this link?
Somebody typed that in the chat box.
I'm going to try and make it as hard as possible for anybody to buy the R4 system. Jeez. And that's a lesson, folks. Pay attention to the details, right? Sorry about that. Man, so let's see here. Christopher says, how did you make the ink list? Did you submit your info or did they discover you? It was kind of a combination of the two, actually. They sent a letter to us saying, hey, we think you may qualify, type of thing. And if, then they give you this process that you can go through and you submit your stuff. But yeah, you have to submit like 3 years of audited financials. At least at the time when we did it, you had to submit those to be in that list. Steve says, in regards to the sales cycle, how do you find these prospects? That's a great question, Steve. So let me tell you first kind of a strategy on how I think that you should approach your business. I'm a huge believer in focusing on one vertical market. Okay, and maybe beyond the scope of this presentation, but there's some critical reasons why. So if you are focused on just one vertical, it makes it much easier than to just go and get a list of businesses in that vertical and really hone your approach to prospecting to that vertical, right? So let's just say it's LASIK eye surgeons. Well, you can now go get a list of LASIK eye surgeons. You can find out, do LASIK eye surgeons have LASIK newsletters they read or magazines they read? Do they attend certain conferences each year to get additional training and meet with vendors? Do they visit certain websites? All of those become very attractive places for you to now reach that audience. But of course, depending on your budget, you may not have enough money to do like advertising. If that's the case, I would definitely suggest the phone, doing good old cold prospecting, email prospecting, inviting prospects to webinars. Those are probably the most cost-efficient ways of getting prospects and getting them to pay attention to what you have to offer. But I'm a big believer in you do as many things as you can afford to do, right? I mean, we do direct mail. We would sponsor certain websites. We would attend certain trade shows, all kinds of different things. Elizabeth says, I also have a question. The system sells a lot more than I'm comfortable with providing. How am I going to provide all those services without going broke with outsourcing? Elizabeth, that's a great question. And, Costas touched on this earlier that, if you get paid well enough from the client, then you can afford to pay outsourcers to help you. And the reality is, and you may just not have really been exposed to it yet, but the reality is that there are just lots and lots of outsourced vendors out there that you can use to very quickly and easily have services delivered on your behalf. I'll give you an example. I went out and bought I went out and sold to a chiropractor recently, and the services that we were offering, we did not have any experience in offering that, and I literally within the day had found somebody online that I could outsource those services to. I charged $2,500. Actually, is it $2,000? I charged $2,000 or $2,500. I think it's $2,000 to that chiropractor a month for the services, and I pay that outsourced provider $1,000 a month. Now, all I do is I go on occasional account management calls or meetings just to make sure that things are going well for that client, and I'm making $1,000 a month. So it can be done, and there's some good resources out there on outsourcing and stuff like that we can certainly point you to. And as a part of this system, I plan on sharing with you, like I said, some of those trusted vendors that we work with to help us deliver services. Mitch, the system looks great. I intend to hire salespeople and use this system to train them. Can you suggest the best course of action or steps to take to use your materials to train a salesperson? It's a great question, Mitch, and I actually forgot to add to one of my slides that you can get access to I've put together some training materials on how to hire appointment setters and how to hire and manage salespeople. So if you do buy the system, then be sure and send an email to help@localincomelab.com. help@localincomelab.com, and just make sure that hey, Mike said I could get these other two training courses, and we'll make sure and get those make those available to you. Because hiring appointment setters and hiring salespeople is a tricky game, and I've done a lot of that. So I think that I can help you out there. Let's see here. Matt says, thanks. Do any of your positioning tips include publishing your own book? Yeah, Matt, I absolutely think that you should publish your own book. In fact, I'm so happy. Costas, when I was at your event in Las Vegas, one of the attendees walked up to me with the Social Media Toolworks Presents a Concise Business Guide to Google Plus Local. And it's a little, what do we got here, 32-page book. And he says, does this look familiar to you? I said, oh, yeah, sure does. It was, I don't know if you remember, we did that marketing pack offer a while ago. Yeah. So in part of that was a book that we wrote for people that we said, hey, you should go get this published and hand it out to prospects. Mail it to them, hand it out to them at meetings, whatever you do. And so he, took action on it. He went and got a whole bunch of them printed, and he uses it as his primary prospecting piece with clients. And so to answer your question, Matt, we actually, as part of this program, are going to be publishing a book for you, writing a book for you that is essentially, communicating and pitching the R4 concepts to your prospects. So you will actually have the content that you need to publish your book and use that in your prospecting process. So I hope that helps you. Russ, could someone with little or no experience in SEO or mobile marketing or trying to understand what the conversation should be about, not confident in answering questions from a business, still able to go forward with the sales process without making a fool of yourself? Yeah, it's a very fair question, Russ. So one of the primary reasons that the R4 framework is as simple as it is exactly for that. I want to give you something that you can learn and have a great deal of confidence in speaking to it, okay? Because if you have that confidence, that comes across. I mean, just like Costas said in my presentation, I have a lot of confidence in my ability to sell at this point. And you want that same confidence. You want that confidence to come across to your prospects. And I have seen, it's pretty fascinating to watch. Some salespeople, they'll get asked a question that they don't know the answer to, and they will just collapse. They'll start sweating, they'll turn all red, they'll get uncomfortable, and the prospect obviously picks up on that and starts to lose confidence in who you are and your abilities. So it's critical to me that you have a simple conversation framework that you can follow. And that framework that I just described, it works for any business. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you're talking to a barbershop, a restaurant, an accountant, a law firm. It doesn't matter. They all have to maximize those 4 R's, right? So you can have that conversation over and over again, and you're going to get very confident with it. Now, as part of the training, I'm going to teach you, well, how do you deal with when somebody, as an example, what if somebody says, yeah, I get all this R4 stuff, but how much do you charge to do this? Right? Well, how do you respond to that? Well, I'm going to give you responses that will then put you back on that strategic conversation track so that you don't get taken down this, wormhole of tactical conversation with your client. Now, I'm also going to teach you, what if your client says, well, what should I be doing in terms of SEO for this or for that? I'm going to teach you a response to that as well, so that, again, you're staying within the conversational framework, and you've got a way to work your way through those conversations with confidence, okay? Because that is absolutely critical. You don't want to make a fool out of yourself, and you don't want to feel like you're making a fool out of yourself, right? So you want to be, really confident and comfortable in what you're doing. Let's see here. As a question just came in, Raymond says, how soon will the replay be available? Gotcha. I thought the reply be available. Replay available. I don't know. I mean, it usually takes us, seems like a half a day to process these recordings and get them out and stuff like that. I don't know. Probably in the next 24 hours or so, I would hope. Let's see here. What other questions do we have coming in?
Mike, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
We, going back to your analogy of how you handle yourself during a prospect meeting,
Mm-hmm.
when you take somebody, you presented that whole case study of how you take someone through the R4 system, and you show them the pyramid, and you take them through the 4 R's.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say somebody says, so let's say you explain the 4 R's, and you say, now, does it sound like if I can help you with just one of these R's? You had a really good way of saying it. Do you feel like I can help you if I can help you with one of these R's, it would significantly change your business or something? Whatever that question was, where they're either going to say yes or they're going to say no, and then you're going to know they're not worth pursuing.
Yeah.
One thought that I had that I wanted to ask you about is, what happens if they're like, well, I'm with you, I hear what you're talking about, but blah 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 blah, and then they go into this technical thing. Does that happen often, and how do you deal with it if it does?
Yeah, I think that type of thing happens a lot, and that's a great question. So let's say I ask you, so I say, Costas, do you see how optimizing these 4 R's could help you dramatically improve the growth of your business? And you could respond with something like, well, yeah, but Mike, we already did SEO. We tried SEO and it didn't work. And, so this whole reach thing, I know SEO doesn't work for my business and it's a scam and I got scammed. You'll have conversations like that, right? I tried this or I did that, or, that doesn't work, that type of thing. Or, won't you, will you just do this for me type of thing, right?
Correct.
And in that conversation, I would say something along the lines of, well, Costas, I've actually heard that from a lot of my current clients, before I started working with them, that they ran into some situation where they tried SEO or they tried this or that and it didn't work for them. And what I've found in 90% of cases is that the reason that didn't work is because nobody ever stepped back and looked at your business from a strategic perspective and said, well, what exactly is the right thing to do for your business today? What's going to get the most bang for your buck? So what somebody did was just sold you a specific solution without looking at the bigger picture and seeing if that's what you really need. And of course, if I go and I deliver the wrong solution without having done that analysis first, then chances are I'm not going to be successful. So it may not be that SEO just doesn't work for you or you and your industry. It just may be that big picture was never really thoughtfully assessed before. And then I would take them right back into the R4 conversation. I'd say, that's why, Costas, it's important to me that we talk through these 4 Rs and that you understand, the perspective that I'm coming from here, and that we do our marketing audit with you to make sure that we truly understand, what your business needs to be successful. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yeah. So you've got to roll. You're going to get all of those types of questions and objections. You've got to be able to kind of roll with the punches and direct them back into that strategic conversation, because it's all about the strategic conversation. If you have that conversation successfully, they look at you as a totally different person than just somebody who came and just tried to sell them something. And and I can tell you from just years of experience, you will get customers that will, or prospects that will be like, yeah, but we already tried this, it didn't work, what can you do for me? And you have to be firm. You have to stand your ground, and you have to say, look, I could just tell you that such and such will work for you. But without having gone through an analysis and actually looked at your business, I'm just blowing smoke, right? All I'm doing is selling to you. And that's not what I want to do. I'm a marketing consultant. I'm a strategist. I'm here to help you grow your business. That means that we need to do a more thoughtful look at your business. And that, that, by the way, Costas, that's how you really win the trust of your clients, right? Because they've been sold to. In this industry, there are so many people that are out there selling, page 1 rankings on Google and SEO this and SEO that, right? People have been sold to and burned many times. So when you go out there with that approach of, hey, I'm not just going to sell to you, I'm going to take a different approach, it totally resonates with people, and it totally changes the position that you have in their mind.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful, Mike. And man, I just want to say that, like, from our perspective as consultants, as opposed to cheesy salespeople who are just out pushing an opportunity.
Yeah.
That when you challenge, like taking the situation that you just mentioned, where if you're sitting with a business owner and he gives you this, he says, I've been burned in the past, blah, 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 and then you come back with something that you have ready to say. When you challenge somebody and with a good answer, then they respect you for it, and it solidifies their trust.
That's right.
Man, and I want to, for all of you who are live, we have a lot of people who are still live on the call, which is like a first for me, because usually at this point people have dropped after the content. But this shows me how engaged that you guys are in the content, and also what a great job that Mike has done presenting. Because I think that the way that we talk to, the way that knowing what to do and how to handle yourself when you get a client, when you're in a prospect situation, can be the difference between walking out of there with $5,000, potentially 6 figures from the course of the year, just from this one meeting. I mean, there's nothing more important than how you handle yourself for those 30 to 60 minutes. And I think a system like what you have, Mike, it's you've clearly it also shows that you've done this too, because I've gone through sales is really, really close to my heart, and how to be natural with prospects and representing your business.
Yeah.
And over the years, man, just like you, I've done a lot of research as far as systems that fit me and my personality, and you can see through. You can tell somebody who is teaching it and not really doing it.
Yeah.
Because when I asked Mike that question about what would you do, trainers always paint the perfect picture. Ask them this question and they're going to say yes. But when I asked Mike just now, and you all heard me, what would you say if the person says, well, maybe? And what if you presented yourself and the person's still not convinced? The fact that Mike has an answer for that and he's included it in his system, that means you don't have to be worried. The oh crap moment. I think a lot of people get afraid that they're going to find themselves in a position where they don't know what to say. And the fact that, Mike, your system is robust and complete and will help them fill in the gaps with all that stuff, it's it's all there. And if you just go through it, you're not going to be in a place where you don't know how to handle yourself.
Yeah, that's the perfectionism thing, right? And a lot of us feel like, okay, I have to know every answer to everything, before I'm going to be successful. And so I've tried as much as possible to script out as much as I I possibly can for people, because you're going to run into the same categories of questions and objections. I obviously can't script out every single possible thing that you're going to run into, but they'll fall into categories, right? There's need objections, urgency objections, money objections, right? There's only a handful of types of objections and types of questions that you're going to get. So, if you learn to work your way, through those categories, then it makes it much easier. You can quickly identify, okay, what kind of objection is that and how do I respond to it? And then, one of the things that I think is really important, Costas, that so many people mess up when they're selling is, let's say, I'm selling to you and, you ask me, I don't know, hey, what's the speed of light when it travels through the, outer reaches of the galaxy and blah, 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 right? At any time in any conversation, a prospect could ask you something that you just don't know the answer to. And the worst mistake that I see people make is they try and fudge the answer, right? They don't want to look dumb. And so they just start rambling and making up stuff, right? And that's usually when they get themselves into some sort of trap or bad situation where they start sweating and getting red-faced, and the prospect can really tell that you're just in sales mode and you're just kind of scrambling. Versus if, Costas, I would imagine, if I ask you something that you don't know the answer to in a sales meeting, what's your response going to be?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, right? Hey, you know what? That's a great question, Mike. I don't know the answer to that, but you know what? I'll be happy to get back to you. I'll be happy to do some research and figure that out for you, right? So it's one of the most important things. You've talked a lot, Costas, here just in the last few minutes about being comfortable, being comfortable in your own skin, being confident, having a system that allows you to feel confident, that you know that you can have the conversations that you need to have. And that's exactly what this is all about. It's about having that conversational framework that you can go through and you can know with confidence, okay, I can have a good, meaningful conversation with somebody where I'm going to make a good, high-quality impact on them. And they're going to have confidence in me, and I'm going to have confidence in what I'm saying. And that's absolutely critical in sales. Let's see here. What challenges would I encounter, BJ asked, being a solo marketer when I go through and use the R4 sales system? Won't I need a team to support me? BJ, you won't run into any challenges specific to the R4 sales system. You run into challenges more in the operational and service delivery side in terms of, okay, I've sold somebody, now what do I do, right? Which honestly is a different subject, right? There's a whole, we could spend who knows how many hours on, how you outsource services effectively and, which vendors to use and all that type of stuff. Like I said, I'm going to give you some good direction on that and some good strategies on that as part of this course. But ultimately, I would recommend, honestly, there's a handful of people in this industry that I really recommend, and if you're looking to learn reputation management, talk to Costas, right? He's got he's got great experience in that. He's got some really, really cool systems and approaches and technologies related to that. So if you are out there selling reputation management, which you should, it's the foundational thing that's on that pyramid, then of course I would say, hey, go talk to Costas and ask him, hey, who are the vendors that you recommend working with, or how do you outsource your services, things like that, right? So I would tell you to go straight to the horse's mouth and find out from them. I'm not going to try and reinvent how to do the specific service delivery, because somebody like Costas has already figured out and nailed it, and he's great at it. So why should I try and reinvent that? So one of the most important things I think you can learn is just to go straight to those types of sources and leverage them as much as possible. Yeah, Charles had a great response. When somebody asks you a question, and it could be a question that you know the answer to or a question that you don't know the answer to, I'm a big believer in you respond, that's a great question. Why do you ask? Right? That's question-based selling. That's how you turn a question with another question and get your prospect talking again, and you'll be amazed at what you learn when you get them talking. So great suggestion, Charles. Let's see here. Will ask, so we provide the services ourselves then? Yeah, my company, yeah, we actually provide services directly to our clients. We do outsource, like I said, I signed that chiropractor and we outsource services to them. So, I mean, we do both. We provide services in-house and we outsource. Well,
hey Mike, a question that I wanted to ask as well, does this allow for, so anybody can use this system and go through your course themselves on how to really up their game and be a master salesperson in a way that it is comfortable for them, that can produce results for them and get clients and grow their business.
Mm-hmm.
Does this work as far as like wanting to scale and bring on more salespeople? Like, let's say you want to have a salesperson working for you and that salesperson brings in leads. So what about somebody who wants to scale their business and hire salespeople?
100%, Costas, because the biggest mistake that people make when they hire salespeople is they don't give them a very specific, precise process for them to follow. So they hire these expensive salespeople, and then they just let them wing it. It's like I talked about before. And nothing is more expensive than hiring a bunch of salespeople and letting them wing it. Because when you do that, the far majority of them will fail. So, yeah, I mean, if you can give them a specific process like this and say, hey, look, have your salespeople go through the training and follow it to a T, then you will know, okay, I know the conversations that they're having out there. I know how they're representing my company. I know how they're pitching our services, right? So when you do that, you have that consistency. You know that they're representing your brand the way you want it represented. And you also know that they're following a particular methodology that across those salespeople, you can now measure the results. If you're all doing the same phone calls and you're all doing the same in-person pitches and you're all doing the same closing, then I can look from salesperson to salesperson and say, oh, look, salesperson one is kicking your butt in getting people on the phone. Why is that? Let's learn from that salesperson and apply it to everybody else, right? So you can see who's performing well and who's not performing well with consistency rather than, just having them winging it and kind of shotgunning it, at your business. That makes sense, Costas?
Totally with you, man.
Cool. Well, hey, man, we are a whole hour and 50 minutes into this. I don't want to keep you or keep folks any longer than they need to be kept. We all need to go back and work on building those businesses. But I will just, a last call for any questions. If you have anything that I can answer for you, I'm happy to. And if not, I'm happy to let you get back to your day. And I really do appreciate your time and sticking with us this long. And I've enjoyed it, and I hope you'd enjoyed it and learned something as well.
Mitch says, trigger pulled. Thanks.
Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it. Jim says, thanks, Mike and Costas. Good stuff. Elizabeth, great. Will do. I'm not on Skype that much. But, there's a conversation with you, I think. Have to get back to work, says Charles. Very good, Charles. Get back after it. All right, Costas. I think that wraps us up, unless you have anything else.
Man, I just want to say thank you, everybody who joined us on this webinar. The really, really cool thing, Mike said early on how, we're no stranger to webinars at this point. Jumping on a webinar in the middle of the day when you're not sure what's coming, it's like sometimes you're like, should I do this? Is it worth my time? And I'm very proud, honestly, because you guys who are here have known me for a length of time, and you know that I don't host many webinars. And the reason is because, quite frankly, there aren't that many partners in this industry that I would trust to put in front of you. And Mike is just so solid, and it's just so cool that we can sit here for an afternoon, and I can just know that everything that Mike is bringing you and teaching you is like absolute gold. It's just such a cool thing. Mike, that's a compliment to you, man, too, because the fact that I can confidently and just totally securely host a webinar middle of the afternoon, feel like you are totally taking care of my members, and that means a lot for me too, man. And also to allow everybody to invest in this heavy discount as well, man. That's huge. So I'm totally happy to be able to do this with you, man. And anybody who is just getting to know Mike now, make sure that you follow him. I will honestly scream from the rooftops that you should invest in anything that Mike puts out, just because there's just no way that if you consume what he puts out that you're not going to see a return, just because of the type of guy that Mike is and the type of business that he runs. So thank you for being here, Mike, and thank you everybody else for being here as well.
That's really cool. I appreciate it, Costas. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining us.